Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. So when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcasts, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. If you're viewing any of the podcasts on YouTube, please subscribe. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank you. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books that can be found on Amazon. I'm available for speaking engagements, in person, and virtual seminars, so please contact me by Facebook, X, and or LinkedIn. I have with me Michael Unbroken, who is the author of the best-selling book, Think Unbroken, and he is a coach, mentor, and educator for adult survivors of child abuse. Michael was born to a hyper-abusive drug addict mother who cut his finger off at 4 years old, a stepfather who pray you never have, and a racist grandmother that pushed him into an identity crisis. I'm excited, very thrilled to have Michael come and share with the listeners of this podcast today. So, Michael, would you share a little bit about yourself and where you are located?
Yeah, and thanks for having me, James. I'm excited to be here with you. First, I'm in Las Vegas. This is home when I'm not traveling, and today I have the distinct privilege and honor of being able to help people create transformation in their lives after they've had extreme trauma. You kind of broached on it there, but I grew up in one of the most chaotic and violent backgrounds you could ever imagine. And despite a few really intense rock bottoms and some missteps, somehow I survived it, and here I am.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael, for sharing that. I've had the opportunity to peruse your profile, and I have to admit, it's very, very um, I don't like to say impressive because of what you've gone through. Wouldn't be That's not the proper word, but it's very intriguing. You have had quite a bit in your life, gone through quite a bit, and of course, uh, I'm excited to have you come on and share this with listeners of this podcast because of what we do here at Dear by Me. So, uh, would you I like to begin asking you the simple question because uh, you go by the name of Michael Unbroken. So I want to just start off by asking you, what does it mean to be unbroken?
I think it's funny because that's the same question I ask at the end of my podcast. Um, for me, it is about living life on your terms, about being the person you were meant to be, about not apologizing, about being that person, and most importantly, about living life in accordance with who it is that you know you're capable of becoming. And
Mhm.
I think so many people are terrified to be themselves. And that to me is one of the hardest parts of the journey because when you can touch authenticity and truth and sit in who you are, that's freedom, man.
Mm.
Like that's where you live. And so many people are afraid of shame and guilt and judgment and all on an honesty. Like, I mean, you think about how many people just they are not honest because they're so afraid of the ramifications of what comes with that. And that to me is because a lot of our experience is losing our identity and trying to be what everybody tells us we should be instead of being who we are. And
Mm.
I think if you can get to be who you are and be okay with who you are, like that's winning the game. Like
Mm.
that's unbroken to me.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love that. That's very powerful. I'm sitting here thinking as you're talking. Uh, I'm wondering about people who might be listening, who are just saying some stuff like, uh, why were you able to overcome so much that they can't, or they feel like others wouldn't be able to overcome. So I
Mhm.
like to hear you talk about that because so many folk are stuck in situations, uh, and they seem not to be able to overcome it. But here you talking about overcoming these situations. So what? Talk a little bit about how you did it.
Yeah, I'm still doing it. I mean,
Okay.
this is a lifetime journey. And I tell my clients all the time, and I've coached thousands of people down their trauma journey and helped them uncover and unlock themselves. And the one thing I always tell them is the same thing I'll tell people listening right now. When you make the decision to do this work, this is a rest of your life decision.
Okay.
There's no day where I'm not trying to live into who I'm capable of being. But in the beginning, it's so hard because think about this for a second. If you've spent your whole life being subjugated to abuse,
Hmm.
meaning effectively you've not had the space to ever explore who you are without some sort of pain or ramification, the idea of being you is terrifying, right? And think about this. You don't know who you are because you've never been you before. And whenever we as humans attempt to do new things, there's always hesitancy,
Mm-hmm.
there's fear, there's unknown. And because of that, we tend to shy away from it because what's better than staying safe in our little bubble of the known? The
Mm.
problem with that is that you never get to fully embrace who you are
Okay.
because you're so comfortable in being who you think you're supposed to be, as opposed to being who you know that you are deep inside. And so, for the people who are at the beginning and they're like, I don't know what to do, it's very simple, James. Tell the truth.
Mm.
Start
Okay.
there.
Oh, I
Tell the
love that.
truth, share who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
be unafraid of the consequence. Because here's what I discovered. You are going to discover and understand very quickly that some people don't like you
Mm.
and some people love you. And
Okay.
either way, it doesn't matter as long as you're okay with the reflection in the mirror. And it's getting to that place, like that's start. That's the beginning. I dare you to go tell the truth.
Mm. Oh, wow. Yeah. I guess I'm so interesting in what you're saying because I've been watching television probably all morning with the situations with the what I forget what they call it, a signal, and listen to everybody give it all the kind of excuses and stuff, kind of make me think about that as I'm talking to you and you're talking about telling the truth. You just kind of lay it on the line, and that speaks volume. I was reading somewhere, I don't know if I saw it in your profile or not, but something about vortex, the vortex. So can I ask you, what does it mean to get out of the vortex?
Yeah. Well, that's the darkness in all of us.
Okay.
We all have that place.
Okay.
We have that place of the negative self-talk, of the getting in our own way, of the self-destructiveness, of the self-sabotage people talk about all the time. And I think that that's that place where you can get trapped so easily because it starts to turn into um, this cycle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where one day turns into two, turns into 10, turns into a lifetime of the excuses, of the lies, of the drama, of the not taking care of yourself, of the sabotage. And to getting out of that all starts with the way that you're talking to yourself.
Mm.
And the reason that I say that is because some of us are so mean to ourselves that there's no way you could possibly be successful. Not with that kind of language, not with that kind of self-treatment. And I think about it a lot, and I always come to this idea of like, would you talk to your child the way that you talk to yourself?
Mm. Mm. Okay.
And if the
Uh,
answer is yes, like you need a lot of therapy, we got a lot of work to do. But if
okay.
the answer is no, then I think you need to start asking yourself, what is happening in your life where you're validating your own mistreatment?
Okay.
Because to get out of that place and to be able to create a shift, I always teach my clients this. Ask yourself this question. What would a kind person do for themselves in this moment?
Mm. Okay.
Because
Now,
that's the place where change is created.
okay. Now, so if I'm correct, and if not correct, please correct me. Are you suggesting that when you use the word the vortex, That's the dark place you're in?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make certain that listeners got a good understanding
Hmm.
of where we are. Now, there's something else that's kind of interesting to me and listening to you. So I think I want to ask you this question. Uh, if you in a space, then where do you begin in that healing process?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be different for everyone,
Okay.
obviously. And I don't
Okay.
think there's a right or wrong because I have come to find many times in my journey that you kind of just have to start where you are.
Okay.
And that's not to be cliche or dismissive, but that's just simply the reality of life. We're all seeking better,
Uh-huh.
and I hope we're all seeking, I should say, a better and deeper understanding of self. And you don't get that without I dare you to sit on the edge of your bed in silence
Okay.
and
Hmm.
allow whatever comes to come. And then on the backside of that, address it and deal with it. And that's the thing that most people don't do. And so in the beginning, it's like once you can do that, while you step up into the space of asking for help, that's where the shift starts to begin.
Hmm.
Because one of the things that I think people really make a mistake on is they'll get into this mindset of, okay, if I think about this and I write it down and I journal and all these things, I can fix it. But generally speaking, it's weird to assume that the very understanding that you have of yourself that got you to where you are is going to
Hmm.
be the same understanding that's going to get you out of where you are.
Hmm.
And I think that asking for help ultimately becomes this incredible tool that will ultimately help you. And I think
Okay.
that's the thing people are most afraid of. Like, go ask for help, go get
Hmm.
support.
Wow. Wow. I love that. So you would say somebody who is a trauma survivor, you would say to them that they need a coach or a mentor. Am I correct about that?
I don't know what they need. Oh, let me put it this way.
Okay.
What I will tell you is that doing this alone is almost impossible.
Okay.
Doing it with people who have walked the path already shortcuts the time, the effort, the energy, and the pain that you might have to go through trying to figure it out by yourself. And so, whether it's a coach or a mentor or a community or a therapy or a psychotherapist, I don't know what you need. But
Mm-hmm.
what I will say is you should probably take into consideration that maybe there's somebody out here who can help you.
Mm, I like that. I like that. So let me just ask you this one question. What is one thing that one can do right now uh, to create a mindset shift? Because if you're going through these type of things, you obviously it's got to be a shift
Mhm.
in your mind, a mindset, if you say, if you will. So how do you get there? Oh, am I asking the right question?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, that's what I was gonna say. It's all about the questions you're asking yourself.
Uh-huh.
Most people never sit and ask themselves why they're doing the thing they're doing.
Okay.
And then they don't ask themselves what they want. Like think about this for a second. If you have a job or you buy a car or you go to a restaurant or you do anything in life, there's always an expected outcome. You go to the car dealership, here's the car, here's the payments, or here's
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
title. You go to the restaurant, hey, I want the steak, I'm getting it medium, here's the price.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things, there's always an outcome. In our personal lives, for whatever reason, which I probably could blame on our education system and the indoctrination that we face in that, most people don't have an end in mind of the outcome of their own life. They're nonchalantly moving about the world, and instead of creating life, they're letting life happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're letting life happen to them, they blame life. And instead of taking charge of life, life takes charge of them. And so, what I would say is one of the most important questions that we could ask ourselves is, what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of
Okay.
relationship do I want? What kind of money do I want? What kind of health do I want? What kind of friendships do I want? Just get clarity about who it is that you are because James, I don't know about you, but I was not given any handbook for life.
Okay.
Nobody gave me a framework for creating what it is that we want.
Hmm.
That only comes through the introspection of self and sitting in it and then allowing and being like, this is what I want. And then
Mm.
once you get to that place, it's like, I dare you to actually give it to yourself. I dare you to give yourself what you want.
Oh, wow. Michael, you're a very, amazing guest today, and I'm enjoying
Thank you, sir.
talking. I'm enjoying talking to you. I want to, I guess, get to something that I hope you can help with. Listen to this podcast because it seems that you have actually experienced it, and you 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 grew up in an abusive home. It really seems that from your uh,
Hmm.
profile. Drug addict mother who cut your finger off at 4 years old. Stepfather, you pray you never nobody ever have a racist grandmother. Uh, and by the time you were 9, you your family was in poverty and often homeless while being members, you say, of the Mormon church. Now, my question to you is um, after going through all of this and knowing what my podcast is all about, encouraging, inspiring, and transforming, if there's somebody out there listening to this podcast who has maybe not those exact things that you have gone through, but they have suffered abuse in their lives, racism, uh, some other situations, homeless,
Hmm.
and I don't know. What is it that you would say to them that would be encouraging, that would be inspiring, that would be hopefully transforming? Is there a word you would say?
That's such a hard question because how do you tell someone in their lowest moment that it's going to be okay?
Hmm.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Okay.
And here's what I'll tell you. And this part is hard for people,
Mm-hmm.
but this is just what I've discovered. The pain that we suffer and the things that we have been through don't have to be our future.
Okay.
When I wrote my first book like 6 or 7 years ago now, it's been a while. One of the things that I really wanted to layer into that book was this concept of even though trauma might be your foundation, it doesn't have to be your future.
Hmm.
The hard part about that shift is there's no words of solace that I think help people in those moments
Mm-hmm.
because it wouldn't have helped me because somebody like, hey man, it'll be okay. And I'm like, dude, I'm homeless,
Mm-hmm.
right? Hey, it's gonna be okay. My mom's a drug, right? And so like there's a disconnect. But what I think quite frequently is, and even though it's this really hard notion in the moment, it was like if you cannot quit and if you can get clear about what you want and if you can move towards that with just fervor and veracity,
Mm-hmm.
you can get yourself out of this.
Okay.
It's not going to be easy.
Mm.
And I'm not going to sit here and try to motivate people or inspire people because it doesn't help.
Uh-huh.
What helps is action.
Mm.
And I would
Okay.
encourage them to take that inventory about where they're at in their life and then make a decision about what they want and just do the thing
I love it.
because that's the way you create change.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to have because without action, everything becomes inertia. And it's like you've got to be willing to uproot everything that is to create what it is that you want.
Mm.
And that's the hardest thing that we do. Because again, James, what we were talking about earlier, it's the unknown. We're
Mm-hmm.
terrified of the unknown. We'd rather sit in the suffering than go and discover what we don't see.
Mm.
And it's in the discovering and in the action of doing that that your life will shift. And so I want to encourage people that it's not the words of encouragement, but it's actually the literal actions that you take that are going to transform your life.
Wow. Well said. Well said. Yeah, I love it, and I know listeners will take that to heart. Michael is, it's what you're saying is so very touching, and it means so much to people who are, kind of stuck where they are. I know you talk about, learn to get unstuck, and so I like that. Um, Listeners, hang on. Please don't go into place because I got a few more uh, questions that I need to ask of Michael. But before I do that, I want to give Michael the opportunity to share with you all how you can learn more about him, if he has a book, how you can get it, or whatever information he can share that will help you get in touch with him or learn more about him or what have you. Michael, would you do that at this point, at this time?
Yeah, of course. So my book is available for anyone who wants it for free. If you go to book.thinkunbroken.com, and then I'm everywhere on social media at Michael Unbroken, and of course we have the Think Unbroken podcast.
All right. Give that book title again for us,
Yep. So it's
Michael.
yep. So it's book.thinkunbroken.com, and that's where you can get a free copy of my first book, Think Unbroken.
Okay. Thank you. Listeners, I hope you got that. All right. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing that with us. Let me ask you this. How do you use your past to create your future?
By recognizing that your past doesn't have to be your future.
I know that. I knew you was gonna give me that short answer, but it's a great one. I felt that was for some reason. Look, you are interesting and amazing. I have to admit. So, how do you understand resilience in the healing journey? How do you understand that?
Well, I thought, what else are you going to do, man?
Okay.
James, here's the crazy part. When
Uh-huh.
I was when I was like 25, I was 350 pounds,
Okay.
smoking 2 packs a day, drinking myself to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
partying nonstop in the
Mm,
worst relationship you could imagine. I was $50,000 in debt. My car got repoed, and
mm.
my family wouldn't talk to me. And
Wow.
that's because I didn't do any of the work. Resiliency isn't the thing happened,
Mm-hmm.
it's the thing happened and I'm gonna do something about it.
Mm. Oh,
There's,
wow. You got to give me that quote again because I love it. Say that one
yeah,
more time.
I said resiliency isn't the thing that happened, it's resiliency is the thing that happened and then doing something about it.
Mm. Wow, that's awesome.
Because the
Awesome.
next thing is coming. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like James, you got a little bit of age on me, right? Probably not a lot. You look like a very healthy young man. But here's what I know. You have had resilience in your life because you've had to overcome things that
Mm-hmm.
have put you in the position where you are today of being a leader and having conversations like this.
Mm-hmm.
Resiliency is the ability to pick yourself up and continue to go
Wow.
even though it's hard, even though it sucks, even though it's unfair, even though it feels like the world is against you. Because you have two decisions around this.
Mm-hmm.
One, do I play a victim to the circumstances of their life?
Mm-hmm.
Two, do I choose to be the person I'm capable of being regardless of what happens?
Wow. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. That's awesome. I mean, it really is. It's awesome. Uh, my last question to you is why is community in healing so important? We all are around folk, family, everybody else. So, how do you connect that to healing?
Yeah, I think it's a requirement. We are a
Okay.
communal species.
Mm-hmm.
Like we need to be a part of other people. right? In ancient times, we would sit around fires and talk, and that's how
Mhm.
you would share stories and journeys and learnings.
Mhm.
And today, I think it's as important as ever to be a part, even if virtually. Like I host a community called Men's Monday. We have a
Mhm.
group of men every Monday night. We meet and for an hour, hour and a half, we jam. And
Mhm.
that's our experience, James, because we're together and we're bonding. And I always say this, we don't literally smoke pipes, but it's like, this is us sitting around the campfire smoking pipes and sharing stories.
Mhm.
And that's something that we need as humans because it's the connectivity in which we can be seen and be felt and be heard.
Mhm.
And think about it, that's all we want, man.
Mhm.
That's all we ever want.
Michael, this has been an awesome event. I've truly enjoyed the conversation with you. You have
Thank you.
shared so much great information uh, to listeners of this podcast. And again, I want to just say thank you for
It's an
for
honor. Thank you,
for
sir.
being a guest on this podcast today. And there you have it, Michael Unbroken sharing with us today. And until next time, peace and blessings be with each of you.